It's been 224 days since the 2023 season of the Prototype Cup Germany came to an end. That was at the Nürburgring back in October, and it was Marcus Pommer and Gary Hauser who won the championship. It's a delayed start to the 2024 season, but hello everybody, welcome to the Lausitzring. After the Spa-Francorchamps round was snowed off in April, it's the start of the season a lot later than anticipated, but some things never change because the man who is defending his championship this year, Marcus Pommer, is starting on pole position. Conditions are absolutely perfect here. Lausitzring, a glorious circuit in the sunshine. We had a bit of rain yesterday, but no such problems today. Qualifying for this race took place early yesterday afternoon on a dry track, and it was for the first of 3 races this weekend. Because of the delayed start to the season, the 2 races that were cancelled in Spa are rescheduled during this season. One of them is this weekend here at the Lausitzring, the other still to be confirmed, but it's still going to be a 12-race season for the Prototype Cup Germany 2024. These monsters will be roaring around this circuit very, very shortly, and we're excited for the first of these 3 races. It's race 1 today, and then races 2 and 3 tomorrow. So lots of action ahead of us. My name's Brian Oliver. I am trackside, sharing commentary duties this weekend with Chris Hartley. I'm proper excited for this.
Yeah, it's going to be very good indeed. The cars are about to go into what's going to be the first of 3 55-minute plus 1 lap races. Beautiful conditions today. It was mixed yesterday, though. They've obviously had 3 qualifying sessions, 3 15-minute sessions to set the grid because of this extra race that we've got. And one in decent but slightly overcast conditions yesterday. But the other one, the second qualifying session yesterday afternoon, was in the wet. And that's given us a mixed-up grid for all 3 races. So Marcus Pommer and Valentino Catalano on pole position for this one, but it's their only pole of the weekend. They're 5th on the grid for race 2, they're 3rd on the grid for race 3, so they've really got to try and make this one count. And in terms of the driver pairing, as you say, Marcus Pommer, hugely experienced, the former German Formula 3 champion. He raced as high up as the FIA Formula 2 championship when he was a single-seater racer in his younger career, and winning the championship last year with 4 wins, but joining forces with a new team for him and joining forces with one of his rivals from last year, the 18-year-old superstar Valentino Catalano, who was also a race winner with a win at Oschersleben last year. So it's a new dynamic for them, but it's a very, very strong driver lineup, and not an entire surprise to see them on pole position. But there is a very famous name in motorsport, the Conrad Motorsport team. They will have a good setup, and they've also got a strong driver lineup for the weekend. And starting is Thorsten Kratz, who was a runner-up in the first ever Prototype Cup Germany Championship in 2022. This is the 3rd season of this championship for these wonderful cars. Brian has been admiring the sound of these cars every time they've been on track this weekend. It reverberates around this huge grandstand. We're on top of the grandstand in the commentary box, and you get the echo and the thunder of these V8 engines of these 455 brake horsepower cars rumble past during their free practice and qualifying sessions. It's quite the sound, isn't it?
Yes, 5.6 litres of Nissan V8, and they really do shake the ground. As you mentioned, a very, very competitive driver lineup. There is talent up and down the field here, none more so than the pole sitter, Marcus Pommer, with Valentino Catalano. And as soon as that was announced, I thought, hey, they are going to be real favourites for the championship. But Thorsten Kratz getting back into the swing of things after the year off, effectively, from Prototype Cup Germany, along with Danny Sufi, and he's a very useful pilot from the USA who will be sharing the driving duties with him. We have a couple of older drivers here. We have a couple of younger drivers as well. We've got 2 drivers who are 16 years old who are on the grid. Kiani Al-Azari, who's come straight from Formula 4, also racing in Formula 4 Spain at the moment. The youngest driver, though, on the grid, Riccardo Cirelli. He's only just turned 16, but he's proven to be very quick indeed because he is starting 3rd on the grid. The engines have burst into life, and we are getting ready for the formation lap. Race 1 of the season, Prototype Cup Germany. The cars now just pulling off from the grid on that all-important formation lap. Time to get the heat into the brakes and into the tyres. No tyre warmers allowed. The floor is shaking as they come racing past us. So the safety car leading around this circuit. Let's take a look at the starting grid, and it is Marcus Pommer on pole position for Gerhard Motorsport with Torsten Kratz alongside for Conrad Motorsport. It's a Ligier and Duquesne cars alongside each other. Riccardo Cirelli and Sven Barth. We've seen him in GT Masters over the years. Great to have him in the Prototype Cup Germany. They are on row 2 of the grid. Antti Ramo and the legendary Klaus Amelin doing a full season for Frigadelli Racing, his own team this year. Chiaro Alazzari and Robert Doyle from the USA line up on row 4 of the grid. It is a circuit here at the Lausitzring, which is 3.478 kilometers around, equates to just over 2 miles, about 2.1. 12 turns, 7 to the left, 5 to the right. Cars running in an anti-clockwise direction. So just getting the heat into the tyres, and we're getting ready as they head around towards the back part of the circuit. And as already mentioned, it is going to be a 55-minute race plus 1 lap with a mandatory stop and driver change that will come, well, it's a 10-minute window that will open 22 minutes into the race, and it will remain open for 10 minutes. The cars gridding up side by side, heading up towards part of the tri-oval, this legendary circuit, using sections of the tri-oval. And here we come out of turn 12 and out onto the pit straight, this big long straight, the best overtaking opportunity on the circuit, but it is a real pinch point into turn 1. So the drivers, good opportunity to make places here, but also good opportunity to get it all wrong in towards turn 1. Right, safety car is into the pit lane. We are ready, finally. The 2024 season of Prototype Cup Germany is go. The green lights are on, the car's fanning out as we head towards turn 1. It's a good start from Marcus Pommer. Coming up the inside, Antti Ramo trying to make it 4 abreast. Also, Klaus Amelin on the outside has to take avoiding action into turn 1. He drops to the back, but they've all made it around turn 1. That's the important bit. But Marcus Pommer, knew he was going to be strong, but look at Antti Ramo up into second place. A great start from him.
Yeah, 5th to 2nd. He just threw it down the inside, didn't he? And made those places stick. It was a tight squeeze. The start is under investigation, though, so we'll have to wait and see if everybody has behaved. A wide line there, working his way through this first infield section for Marcus Pommer, but he's got an enormous lead, and it could be more trouble here for Cirelli. He's going to lose another place in the pink Muka Motorsport car, so he just gets forced out wide and drops back again. So having started up at the front, he's down in 5th place now, but trying to get his second place back here. That's a great move up the inside for Torsten Kratz in the Conrad car. And then it's out wide in contact, and I'm afraid a round after that terrific start has gone. Antti Ramo. Oh no, it's Sven Barth. Yeah. Antti Ramo was the contact with him, but Barth, the former ADAC GT Masters star, is in the wrong direction. He's got the car fired up still, I think, and he'll be able to get going again. We'll get a look at the replay, and he just saw the gap, went at the inside, the door closed, and the front right corner of Sven Barth clipping the back of the car, which made the brilliant start to the race. Antti Ramo. Oh,
he did well to hold on to it. Antti Ramo almost went with him, didn't he? Pleased to say he kept it out the gravel trap, though, so that's the important bit. So he's able to continue, but he's a long way back now. That can't be said for Marcus Pommer. Look at the lead that he has already, 3.453 seconds.
Yeah, looking resurgent, though, is Cirelli, isn't he? The 16-year-old there, and he is in that bright pink traditional colours of BWT, Best Water Technology, the big long-term sponsors of Muka Motorsport, and he is trying to get one of his positions back after a slightly iffy start to the race, but running around at the moment in 4th position. Ramo in 3rd. Kratz having got that place back early doors on the first lap of the race to get back ahead of Ramo in 2nd place. But as you say, Pommer already at the end of lap number 1, 3.4 seconds to the good on lap number 2 now, and about to go towards the end of the next split. We get a replay of the start. Keep an eye then on Antti Ramo from 5th on the grid, 3rd one back on the left. right behind the pink Muka car. He sees the gap and thinks, right, I'm going to commit to this and go for it. There are 3 together. And what he really needed to do there was to slow the car down in time, not to run into the back of the race leader. That would have been so easy for him to go and slightly outbrake himself and go into the back of Pommer, but he did a perfect job.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant stuff. And these cars not always easy to drive, especially here at the Lausitzring. You can see just as they turn into turn 1 how bumpy it is, and a lot of drivers commenting this is a very bumpy surface. Of course, these cars are very heavily dependent on ground effect and downforce, and the bumps make an awful lot of difference to the handling. So just keeping them pointing in the right direction is a skill in itself, and then racing as well. This is another view as they came out of turn 12. I just wish you could have been here to feel the ground shake, because they are spectacular as they head out in the sunshine. A phenomenal sight. Absolutely love Prototype Cup Germany.
In the Fricadelli car, Klaus Abelin had to go for the outside line. There was no other option, but you'll see the red and white machine there all the way on the outside, and he was 4 abreast, which is no wonder he ran out of road and had to almost take to the grass. But look at the lead that Marcus Pommer has developed already. 2 laps in, 5.1 seconds clear. No surprises to say he's got the fastest lap of the race with a 1:22.277. A 1:24 for Kratz in second place, was 1.8 seconds on that lap alone. So Marcus Pommer getting his head down and trying to build up as much of a lead as he can in the first portion of the race before we get to the mandatory stops. And it's been a bit sort of attack and then defend, hasn't it, so far in the race for Cirelli? At times since the start of the race, he's been going back on the attack, and he was getting pretty close to the tail of Antti Ramo on lap 2. But now at certain points of the lap, sector 3, looks like he struggles a little bit and falls back into the clutches of another 16-year-old, Keanu Al-Azari, who's come straight from karting in the number 21 blue and white Mulner Motorsport car. He's okay on the run into turn 1, but it's that last sector he looks like he struggles a bit as Antti Ramo gets it a bit wrong going through turn 1, just runs wide, and that means that he in the number 14 car is going to be sucked into this battle. It's going to be 3 of them then going for 3rd place.
This is a baptism of fire for Riccardo Cirelli. He's come straight from karting to drive one of these monsters, rather him than me. He is sharing the driving duties with Julian Apostolos, who is a very useful pilot indeed. Comes into this season as one of the joint favourites for the championship. But Cirelli now with his mirrors full. Now he wants to make an attack on the Antti Ramo car in front of him, but of course if he makes the move and it doesn't stick, then Al-Azari is going to be through like the proverbial rat up the drain pipe. The 3 cars running together. Look at the bumps as they head into the corner, but this is a very steep learning curve for Riccardo Cirelli.
Just making their way out of turn 8. He's got a few years on the pair behind him. In fact, if you combine their ages, he's still older than them. 41 years of age. I can't say anything, I'm much older than them. But Antti Ramo is equally inexperienced in these sorts of cars. He's got a big karting pedigree, and it's only in recent years that he was still racing in the KZ2 Estonian karting championship. He comes from Tallinn, the capital city. He's done a bit of touring car racing, did a season in the Italian touring car championship, but front-wheel drive touring car, very different to a rear-wheel drive LMP3 car. So he's doing a good job here at fending them off. So he got turn 1 wrong at the start of this lap, but the previous lap, but on this lap, it's been a good start to him. But they're definitely starting to reel him in, and it's a difficult situation now for Cirelli because he wants to attack the car ahead, the number 14 car of Ramo, but he's also got to keep an eye on the mirrors because Keanu Al-Azari is at times, and certain points of the lap, definitely the quicker of the 3.
Yeah, he's looking menacing, isn't it? Again, Antti Ramo, you can see him just struggling a little bit with traction through the corners. You saw the back end sliding. There's our leader. Well, he's got time to stop for a morning coffee and a biscuit before Torsten Kratz comes along. 8.5 seconds between first and second. Then this enthralling battle for 3rd place, bumping in towards turn 8 they come. Still Antti Ramo at the front of that queue at the moment, but you get the feeling that Riccardo Cirelli is getting impatient, wants to make the move. Al-Azari just in the background as well, has a little look to the outside. Now it's his turn to put the pressure on. He says, if you can't get past nice. Ramo, let me have a go. What a great move. But now Cirelli coming back on the inside, but Al-Azari has that faster line out of turn 12 onto the pit straight. Brilliant driving from Al-Azari.
Not sure I've ever seen anybody pull a move off into that tight left-hander at turn 11. 27, but that was a great move from Al-Azhari there to get himself up to 4th place. It looked for all the world like he was going to lose the place on the way out of the corner, but he managed to hold on to it. He's definitely looked the quicker of the 3 in the last 2 laps, and now he sets his sights on Antti Ramo in 3rd place in the number 14 car. He's got a dual campaign this year as the driver in the blue and white machine, Keanu Al-Azhari, because he's also currently in 3rd place in the Spanish Formula 4 Championship, racing in single-seaters after 2 podiums out of 3 races at the opening round at Jarama. He also, over the winter season, competed in the very competitive UAE Formula 4 Championship, where lots of Formula 4 drivers from around the world come together, and finished 3rd in that. Get a replay of this move then.
Great.
This was set up beautifully around the outside to give him the inside for the penultimate corner on the lap. Then it looks like that tight line is going to send him out wide, high up onto the banking here, and the gap opens up, but he finds traction and manages to make the move stick by the time they get out onto the banking of the famous tri-oval here at the Lausitzring.
All credit to Riccardo Cirelli. He gave him plenty of space. What we don't want to see is these cars in the gravel trap, and he gave him the space to make that move. But Keanu, yeah, hats off to you. I've never seen a move around that section of the track before, so very, very good indeed. We got a car in 8th place, which is Robert Doyle. He's a little way back from the leader at the moment. I'm afraid that's going to get even worse because he's picked up a 5-second time penalty for an incorrect grid position, and in fact, a whole number have now just flashed up on our screen. So a time penalty for Sven Bart, a time penalty for Klaus Abelin, and a time penalty for Robert Doyle as the 21 car of Keanu Al-Azhari just going wide out onto the grass. He rejoins, but he's lost a load of time there. But the incorrect grid positions for those 3 cars that I've mentioned have given them a 5-second time penalty, which will be added to their time at the end of the race. But Keanu Al-Azhari having a bit of a moment. Let's have a look here, and it's out of turn 1, 2 and 3. He goes wide, and that's the only invitation that Riccardo Cirelli needs to sneak on through, steal the position back. So all that hard work and that brilliant move in the Mulner Motorsport Duquesne, he's going to have to do it all again because he's let the cars back through.
Yeah, because see exactly what he was doing. He's trying to follow the line of Antti Ramo past the back marking number 47 car of Robert Doyle, but they just lacked traction there.
Oh, the leader.
The only one lacking traction was he, is Marcus Pommer finds the limits, goes a little bit beyond it, and kisses the gravel trap with the left rear corner of his black and red Gebhardt Motorsport car. But the race leader can afford to do it in a sense because he's 13 seconds clear. That's confirmation of the first of these 5-second time penalties that Brian mentioned. And now we've got a different battle on our hands. It is still for 3rd place, but it's become a 2-horse race for the time being between Ramo and Cirelli. But don't rule out the fact that in the next few laps, Al-Azhari is going to catch them back up. But I think he's already started to do it. So we'll see when they come through the sector times and at the end of the lap what we'll do. But they're just making their way into turn 6 at the moment. They go back onto the tri-oval. They've gone through the first sector. 27.9 for Ramo, 28.0 for Cirelli, 27.5 for Al-Azhari. So in that sector alone, the first third of the lap, he pulled back 0.4 of a second.
Proper entertainment here from the Prototype Cup Germany. We've got 2 different chassis that are taking part in this race. 4 of the cars are running the Duquesne D08 and 4 running the Ligier JS P320. They are very evenly matched. They're all running identical engines. They're 5.6-litre Nissan V8, the type VK56, which produces about 455 brake horsepower. They are very noisy, very entertaining, and good racing. To remind you, there is the mandatory stop and driver change for some of the drivers. The mandatory stop comes when the clock strikes 33, so that is 22 minutes into the race. So all cars will need to come into the pits for a mandatory stop. Those that have 2 drivers will have to do the driver change. There are a couple of cars 14 and 21, that are single drivers. It's quite complicated with the pit stops. There is a minimum pit stop time, and there are different pit handicaps that are added depending on the driver status.
Exactly right. So Marcus Pommer and Valentino Catalano are both silver-rated drivers, which means on top of the base pit stop time, everybody has to do an absolute base minimum of 95 seconds in the pits. But on top of that, they will have to do another 20 seconds, whereas the team in second place are a bronze and silver pairing. They only get an additional 10 seconds. So essentially, what that means is you can wipe 10 seconds off Marcus Pommer's lead now because he'll lose that additional time in the pit. So he leads by 14.4 seconds. But by the time you take the pit stop into account, that would only become 4.4 seconds. It has a big effect on this battle for third place as well, because at the head of this group here in third place, number 14 is Antti Ramo. He's a bronze-rated driver. He doesn't get any additional penalty in the pit stop, so he can be in and out in 95 seconds. But that pink Muka Motorsport car of Riccardo Cirelli and Julian Apostolos, they're both silver-rated as well, so they're going to have to stop in the pits for 20 seconds longer than the car is right behind. And for the Mulner car that's third in this group, as a silver-rated solo driver, Keanu Al-Azari gets 25 seconds on top. So of this trio, it's no additional seconds for the car that's third at the moment, 20 for the pink Muka car in second and 25 for the one behind. So that is going to completely spread this out, isn't it? So in a really, really strong position here, whatever happens in the rest of this stint to get that third place with that lack of pit stop penalty time is going to be Antti Ramo, the car that's in the lead of this trio.
Yeah, and he'll know that, so he won't be frustrated as he sees first and second disappearing up the road. Just goes to show, when you look at the what is now 16.2 second lead between Pommer and Kratz, don't despair if you're looking for a close race at the front, because it could all change. It may well change before the pit window even opens here, because Cirelli is looking eager, Keanu Al-Azari is looking even more eager, and they know they need to get past Antti Ramo. They need to get some space between themselves and him before that pit window. Otherwise, they're going to have a lot of work to do. At least those that have co-drivers will have a lot of work to do once the pit window closes. Just to complicate things even further, it won't apply for this race, but for the rest of the races of the season, the pit stops will have a success handicap as well. So an additional 7 seconds from the previous race winner, an additional 4 seconds for second place, an additional 2 seconds for third place. So the pit stops, a fairly complicated affair. Pleased I'm not timekeeping them, because every one of them's got quite a complex formula to work it out.
And you are relying on two commentators that did their maths exams a very, very long time ago.
Oh, speak for yourself.
Good luck with that. The other thing that's worth pointing out, Antti Ramo is, as we said, in pole position in this battle for third place. But if they were to pit now, he'd move up to second, because Kratz in second place has to stop for 10 seconds longer than Ramo, and Ramo is only 6.6 seconds behind him. And that was a wild ride there for the number 80 Sven Bart car, who's already had one moment in this race. And it's so easy to get it wrong there. You can see how bumpy and bouncy it is if you get slightly offline. The good news is that grass looks like it's dried up, because it was pretty soggy last night after an afternoon of fairly consistent rain. So the mud has dried up, the puddles have gone, and it was bumpy, but he at least found a little bit of traction when he went on there.
Yes, and talking of the rain, well, the forecast is due to be dry this weekend, but you've had the spoiler already. Marcus Pommer and Valentino Catalano, they might have started on pole position today and disappearing off into the distance. Spoiler alert, no such luxuries tomorrow. The two races tomorrow, they got a bit of work to do. We'll let you wait for that one. But the battle for third place rages on. This is a gripping battle. Picking up a slipstream, maybe, down towards turn one once again. Cirelli looks to have the legs on Al-Azari at the moment, but Antti Ramo in that third place. Remember, with that advantage that's going to come after the pit stop, looking very strong indeed in the MRS GT Racing Ligier. That second place just going through the picture. Torsten Kratz having a fairly lonely race at the moment. He, as already mentioned, sharing the driving duties with Danny Sufi.
Just watching at the commentary box window as they hit the brakes, as they come back off the tri-oval and brake into the left-hander at turn 6. Really good on the brakes from the man you're watching here, Cirelli. He definitely closed up by a length or so on Antti Ramo's car. But watch it in the mirrors, because that Mulder Motorsport car is back with them now, breathing down their neck. Keanu Al-Azari in that number 21 car was actually on pole position this morning in this morning's third qualifying session, only by 70 thousandths of a second. Oh, that's a little bit hairy for the Fricadelli Pirelli car of Klaus Abelin, who's scrambling to try and keep the car in the roughly in the right direction. He's just about doing it, but Sven Barth, who's on his own moment, he's breathing down his neck. This is the battle for 6th place. Sven Barth switches one way, then the next, finds the gap. That is a beautiful dummy. He goes one way, then the other, creates a gap, and gets down the inside to gain the place. So nicely done that by Sven Barth, who you'll know, Brian, from lots of years commentating on ADAC GT Masters, where he was one of the stars in the Corvette, wasn't he?
Yes, a real talented driver, and my heart did a little leap for joy when I saw that he was signed up here for this series. That's Robert Doyle just getting out of the way. He is a couple of laps down from the USA, very much kind of finding his feet in this at the moment. He's sharing with Jaime Guzman from Mexico. Looking forward to seeing him at the wheel, but I'm enjoying this battle. It's the replay again. It was very, very entertaining. Sven Barth went to the left, went to the right, finally found the gap on the inside and sailed through Klaus Abelin. Brilliant stuff.
And we've got Al Azari now ahead, like in this battle between him and Cirelli. So the blue and white machine up into 4th place, and maybe about to go 3rd here. He switches down the inside. It's a Sven Barth type move all the way to the left-hander at turn 8. He's on the outside here, then he tries to switch back to the inside. Is he going to go for the gap? Is there a gap? Not quite. The door closes and he remains behind. He might have been better off there trying the move he tried earlier on, actually, staying around the outside and go for the inside at the next corner, but he didn't quite have it. Now he's going to be slightly on the back foot, I think, Brian, coming out onto the straight.
Yeah, I thought exactly the same. I thought we're going to call that the Keanu Al-Azari move from now on, but no, he didn't do it this time round. Onto the pit straight. Suddenly he's looking vulnerable to Riccardo Cirelli once again in towards turn 1. Looks like he's got him covered off. Antti Ramo, though, still looking pretty solid in that 3rd place into a section of the track where overtaking is not terribly easy, although nobody's told Keanu Al-Azari that. And Cirelli just waiting in the background. They're well clear of Sven Barth and Klaus Abelin, who are in the 6th and 7th place. But this is a wonderful battle for the last of the podium positions. We are getting close to the pit stop window opening, about just over 3 minutes. And I think that Al-Azari would like to get this move done and dusted before he hands the car over.
Yeah, he needs to try and get as far through as he possibly can here to try and bridge some of that time that he's going to lose in the pit stop. He's flashing the lights like crazy, isn't he, to try and distract a driver ahead. But the Estonian Antti Ramo is cool, calm, collected and unruffled. And look in the mirrors, Marcus Pommer, nobody there. The entire straight length and then some is his advantage at the moment. But as I say, we'll lose a lot of that, 10 seconds of that to this car, Torsten Kratz's car, when he has to stop for a longer penalty time during the pits. But even so, it's going to be handing a comfortable lead over to his new teammate for the season. They've got 5 race wins between them. Valentino Catalano, the talented 18-year-old, will be next in. Again, he struggles off the last corner here, and he's coming under a bit of pressure, is Al-Azari from Cirelli, but he's very good on the brakes, the driver from the UAE, and so just about covers that off. But they both lose a length or so to Antti Ramo, who is able to keep them at bay at the end of that lap. So Marcus Pommer leads by 21.1 seconds. He's got to stop for 10 seconds longer than Kratz in 2nd place, so it's a net 11-second advantage. Kratz at the moment is 8.4 seconds clear of that black and white MRS car of Antti Ramo. He's 8.4 seconds clear, but he's got to stop for 10 seconds longer than Ramo. So effectively, Ramo is a net 2nd place at the moment.
I did say that Keanu Al-Azari has to hand the car over. Of course, he is a solo driver, as is Antti Ramo, who just goes and picks up a little bit of dirt. So those 2 cars in 3rd and 4th are solo drivers. So they will still need to make the stop, but won't be handing over. That's not the case for Riccardo Cirelli. What a debut in Prototype Cup Germany. As I said already, he's come straight from karting. It started 4 years ago with his mother asking if he could sit in the seat of the Mucker Formula 4 car. He went to see Peter Mucker, team boss, and mother said, "Can my son sit in the seat?" And he said, "Yes, sure he can." They kept in contact. 4 years later, he's driving one of his cars. There you go. Let's go and ask to sit in everybody's seats.
And effectively, this is a home race for the Mucker Motorsport squad. They're based in Berlin, which isn't exactly down the road. Dresden's the nearest city, but this is their nearest national racetrack. But so Lausitzring, a circuit that Mucker Motorsport in all Formula know incredibly well, whether that's single-seaters, Formula 3, prototypes or DTM. Right, 22 minutes is when the pit window opens. Sven Bart has come into the pits before the window opens, and that looks like an issue. So it's between the start of the 22nd minute and before 32 minutes come on the clock. So 31 minutes, 59.999 seconds is the last time you can make your pit stop. The window has, in fact, just opened, hasn't it? So
no, not quite. We're 5 seconds away from it.
So,
we saw him going through the gravel. I'm wondering, I was going to say they build him strong at Duquesne, but I'm wondering whether he's damaged something, and it looks as though Maxim Dirks is not going to get a drive this afternoon because Sven Bart is out of the car. This battle rages on for third place. Antti Ramo, great job holding off the massive pressure from behind. Keanu Alazari still in that second in that fourth place, but second in line behind him. And Riccardo Cirelli still champing at the bit into turn one, once again under braking. And now there may be an element of strategy going on here. In fact, there will be. The teams will decide when to call their cars in. For those with two drivers, they may wish to maximise the driving time for the driver who is quickest out on track. For those that are solo, the team might want to pull them in when there's an opportunity to get them back out on some open track and maybe perform a bit of an undercut or an overcut.
Cars running on Michelin slick tyres. Way out wide there. As we just leave it was Alazari. This is Klaus Abelin coming in to make his pit stop. Now the pit window is open. Felipe Laza, the Spanish driver, is going to take over from Klaus Abelin, who, of course, ran the Fricadelli company, were famous for their meatballs, their fricadellas, and hence the name of the team. And he was the partner of the late, great Sabina Schmitz as well. They set up the team as a partnership back in the day. And now we can see in from this battle comes Cirelli as well. So Cirelli peels off into the pit lane, leaving Antti Ramo to fend off just one for the time being. But Anti's going to be well clear of them once the pit stops sort themselves out. And in two comes Robert Doyle, number 47 in the AF2 Motorsport car. So he's going to hand over to the Mexican driver Jaime Guzman, who's got a good pedigree in GT racing in Mexico, fourth in what's effectively the Mexican GT Championship previously. So in for a minimum of 95 seconds. For the AF2 Motorsport pairing of Doyle and Guzman, they are both bronze drivers, so they don't get any additional penalty. So they're going to gain time on others here as well. They'll only be in theory, for 95 seconds as Antti Ramo gets the power down. All 5.6 litres are opened up, 455 brake horsepower. The back end of the car danced around there as he came out of turn 5, and that puts him under a bit more pressure as they then move through the left at turn 6 and into this big arcing right-hander, almost a big sweeping hairpin at turn 7.
Interestingly, car 80 has rejoined with Maxim Dirks at the wheel. So Sven Bart came in. Now, I'm wondering whether they had a communication issue and they came in for their driver change before the pit window had opened. And if that is the case, our race stewards will have something to say about that. Our graphics team are on their toes. You can see the various times ticking down on your graphic. If that P turns red, it's bad news. Now's a bit of a slide going on there for Keanu Alazari as he just goes into the pits. You just saw him turning in, the back end doing a bit of drifting, but it's all good. The time is from the pit entry to the pit exit line, so that's when the clock starts. Of course, the cars have to keep to the speed limit, and they can't slow down on the exit because that would be seen as bulking. And no surprises, car 80 for Gebhardt Motorsport is under investigation for the pit stop. And there it is, the car. Well, he's doing a few pirouettes to celebrate that investigation, I think, because Maxim Dirks at the wheel of that. It looks to me as though they pitted before the pit window had opened. There's the confirmation, and you get the feeling that, well, they'll be talking to the team, and if it is a mistake, there will be a penalty incoming. There's a self-imposed penalty at the moment as he does a beautiful pirouette. He's down in 7th place, but we'll keep you updated if we get any news.
Yeah, Maxim Dirk's 20 years of age from Antwerp in Belgium. He's got this wonderful art livery on the car. He's supported by an artist called Christophe de Faren, who designed this livery for him. And Christophe's uncle, Hugh de Faren, was actually a winner of the Spa 24 Hours back in 1975 and raced at Le Mans 7 times as well. So there's a connection there. And Maxim, he's actually coached by a former DTM racer and a 3-time Le Mans 24-hour winner, Marco Werner, who won Le Mans with Audi 3 years in succession. Used to work with his mom, who's a race instructor. I got to know him, and he's been helping to coach Maxim ever since. So he's brought him into the championship, put him in touch with the team as the pit stops continue. Remember the one with the longest pit stop, number 21, as a solo silver-rated driver, Chiano Alazzari, stopping for an additional 25 seconds. The cars 14, the MRS team, and 47, AF2, don't have any additional seconds. It's 10 seconds additional for number 2, Conrad Motorsport, number 30, Fricadelli, 20 seconds additional for Muka Motorsport, number 8, and number 70, Gebhardt Motorsport, and also for the number 80 Gebhardt Motorsport car, and then 25 additional on top of the 95 for Chiano Alazzari for Mulner.
You just seen our race, who was our race leader, Marcus Pommer, coming in. There is the 21 car, just needing a helping hand to get out of the pit box, but Marcus Pommer handing it over to Valentino Catalana, another very useful driver, came through the route of Formula 4 and was very, very strong. 4th in last year's championship, won at the season opener in Oschersleben, the German-Italian driver who has been very impressive. He did 3 races in the Prototype Winter Series just to keep himself up to speed, has been training hard, has spent an awful lot of time in the sim, has Valentina Catalano. Really wanted to get to know this track. He'd never raced at the Lausitzring before, but has done so many laps in the sim. He knows it well. Right, another investigation. Chiano Alazzari, what an absolute shame that he's under investigation. It doesn't mean there is a penalty. Get the feeling that that push out of the pit box might have contravened some rules somewhere.
Yes, possibly. We'll have a look. The stewards will have a look, that's for sure. Whether he deduct his time as well, we'll have to wait and see. It looked OK, but they're checking it out anyway. And if it's 0.001 of a second too quick, they'll penalise him. Just to say as well, the 14 car of Ramo is the race-leading car at the moment. It's the only one that hasn't been in the pits, but Ramo won't get any additional seconds on top. So on the road, he's actually just coming through into turn 7, number 14 car, Ramo. And behind him is the number 2 car of now Danny Sufi, but he should be ahead of him once he makes his pit stop as well, just about.
Yeah, I think this has contravened the health and safety. I don't have the rule book in front of me, but I do know that ADAC and Creventic are very particular about safety in the pit lane. There's a restriction as to how many people may make contact with the car, and there is a restriction as to how far out of the pit box they are able to go. So we'll keep an eye on that one. Interesting, Maxim Dirks is being shown on your graphic as having not pitted because, of course, that car came into the pits with Sven Bart at the wheel before the window had opened, and I get the feeling they may be required to come in again to serve what would be the mandatory stop, but that is just speculation at the moment. Antti Ramo, the only driver who hasn't made his mandatory stop, out in front, looking very strong. Valentina Catalana is going to need to put in some proper qualifying type laps to get himself back in the lead. Danny Sufi now into that 3rd place, and keep an eye on Julian Apostolos, the very rapid number 8 car in the BWT Muka Motorsport car, in 4th place ahead of Chiano Alazzari and Felipe Lazar, not Klaus Abelin, who's in 6th place. Felipe Lazar, who is the only gold-rated driver in the race, and he is a previous winner of the Nürburgring 24-hour race. Now, there's a car stationary in the pits. I think that is Robert Doyle slash Jaime Guzman's car. Yes, it is. So it looks like they've got a problem. Looks as though their afternoon might be over.
For 2nd place, once he makes this pit stop, I think Antti Ramo is now going to struggle to stay ahead of the number 2 car, now driven by Danny Sufi, because Danny is not far behind him on the road. So he's basically a lap down, or almost a lap down now. It's about 1 minute and 22 seconds to do a lap around here, but his stop should take him 95 seconds, which is 1 minute and 35 seconds. And I think that's going to, once he makes his stop, put him probably about 7 or 8 seconds behind the number 2 Conrad car.
Do you know what? I think Antti Ramo could miss the pit window here, because we've got just over a minute left.
Come in, has he?
And he's not. I thought he was going to have to pit this time around. He hasn't.
It's going to be tight.
He's still out on track. I don't think he can get round in 55 seconds, personally. I think it would be a very quick lap if he did. There's a lovely slow-mo of him coming along past the pits, but I think Anti-Ramo may be in trouble unless I am miscalculating this.
He's got to get to the line, hasn't he?
Line,
be in the pits. So.
Yeah, but the line is a little way into the pit lane, so we'll keep an eye on that. He's got 35 seconds to sort this one out, and at the moment, I can see him
turn 7.
In turn 7. So he's going to have to get his skates on. If they have back-timed this, they've done it very well indeed, or not, as the case may be.
It's too tight to be not stressful, isn't it? It's just at turn 8, so at the exit to turn 10. In 2 corners' time,
he's not going to make it.
Peel off.
I don't think he's going to make it.
Not quite. I
don't know. Yeah. Turn 9, and has he? I mean, 5, 4. Where's the line? 3, 2, 1. No. There's the line there. He's missed the pit window.
4 seconds, hasn't he? There's the line there.
So what is normally the case in these situations is the amount that you miss the window by you get as a penalty, but I don't know how they're going to calculate this, but the pit window is now closed. Of course, as we've already mentioned, Anti-Ramo, a solo driver from Estonia for MRS GT Racing, so no driver change. He just has to be stationary for 95 seconds.
Keanu Al-Azhari's going to get a drive-through penalty. They were looking at that pit stop infringement, weren't they, and decided that I think the push that he got out of the pits must have been it, so he's going to get a drive-through penalty. So having had the longest pit stop of anybody anyway, due to the rules, that's a bit of a killer for him, I'm afraid, after what was a good drive.
Yeah, that's a real shame, isn't it? And, well, they'll learn from that, won't they? We've had no notification of any issues for car 14. Getting a bit of air into the car, I think it's probably pretty warm. It's pretty warm in our commentary box, and we got aircon. So I think they're probably cooking a little bit inside the cockpits of these cars. Had no notification that there's any issue, and there's confirmation of that drive-through penalty for Keanu Al-Azhari. But I still think he didn't make the pit window myself.
Number 2, Danny Sufi's just about to come through the final turn. So as I suspected, Danny Sufi in his outlaps had done enough to close that gap, enough to retain second position, despite the team having to stop for a longer period than the car that's currently in, with them having to stop for an additional 10 seconds. I think he's done more than enough. So it will be, once it settles back down, at number 70, it was driven by Marcus Pommel at the start. Valentino Catalano, the 18-year-old, now will take over the car. A 30-second stop-go penalty for Sven Bards and Maxime Dirks. That was being investigated as well. So that was for pitting just before the window. Yeah, they basically came in a lap early. I mean, they were probably about 15 seconds before the pit window actually opened, weren't they?
Yeah, that's going to sting a little bit. I mean, they're the last of the running cars, and they're probably not going to make any progress from there. There are points paid all the way down to everybody here. Is that Danny Sufi getting his elbows up by any chance as he comes charging through on the inside of Anti-Ramo earlier on in the race? So Valentino Catalano is our race leader with 20.5 minutes to go. Danny Sufi in second. As you already mentioned, Chris, Ramo into third. Julian Apotelos, fairly quiet afternoon at the moment, but he hasn't given up on the chance of a podium here. He is very, very quick. The driver who's come through ADAC TCR Germany, and very, very quick indeed. So he's in that 4th place. But Danny Sufi in the green and black car, and there is Anti-Ramo just behind it.
Yeah, Danny Sufi, I thought he was going to come out just in front of the 14 car after the pit stop, so he actually came out just behind him. And then, as you saw that replay, muscle his way past to make sure he got 2nd place. But Danny Sufi had been the quicker of the 2 before that pit stop anyway. So it is number 70, Catalano, that leads the way for the Gebhardt Motorsport team. 2nd place is for Conrad, number 2. You can see him here in your shop. The turquoise and black car now driven by Danny Sufi, the American driver. 3rd there is Anti-Ramo, number 14, and then you've got a big gap back to the pink Muka Motorsport car, which was started by Riccardo Cirelli. Remember, he was right behind Anti-Ramo before the pit stop phase opened, but had to stop for 20 seconds longer. And the gap between Ramo and Apotelos is actually 26.6 seconds, so it wasn't just the time lost during the pit stop itself, Ramo has obviously gained time on them, another 6 seconds or so on his on those laps in which he stayed out on track. So he's extended the advantage. And then in 5th place, with his penalty now as well, Alcazari, number 21.
That's Maxim Dirks coming in for his stop and go. 30 seconds, that's going to feel like a long time, isn't it? Right, we've just had confirmation that car 14 is under investigation for his pit stop. Without wishing to be a prophet of doom is what we saw, wasn't it? So Antti Ramo under investigation as well. Right, let's stop and go. Well, he's got time to go out and have a comfort break and come back. It's a long old break this is, and he was in 7th and the last of the runners. He's going to be very much cemented in that position. So that's a long old stop. You probably won't make that mistake again in a hurry, will they?
No, you live and learn, don't you? But again, there's a lot to take in, isn't it, with these additional seconds that you get in and when you can and can't make your pit stop. So a lot of new drivers in the championship this year and new teams as well to the Prototype Cup Germany. Just having to learn the hard way, I'm afraid, but I'm sure they'll make fewer and fewer mistakes as the season goes on. So that car released out. We've now got Antti Ramos, as we've said, under investigation. The car in 3rd place, and he's going to plummet down the order if he has to come in and have a stop-go penalty, because he's only 14 seconds clear of Apostolos in 4th place currently.
So Apostolos will be getting the sniff of a potential podium here, and he'll be very happy about that. Oh, 16 seconds. So that's, I think, probably what he missed the pit window by, and that has been added, but it's a stop-and-go penalty, so he will have to come into the pits, keeping to the speed limit, stop for 16 seconds, and then go again. That's going to drop him towards the back of the pack, certainly out of the podium position. So such a shame after what has been a real impressive drive from Antti Ramo. Race leader, well, here's a replay of Valentino Catalano bumping out of the corner, keeping it out of the gravel. Some lovely slow-mo shots of that very, very beautiful looking car. That was the car that was due to start on pole position at Spa-Francorchamps. It was Marcus Bommer who put it on pole position at Spa. Then the snow came and they decided, quite rightly, it wasn't going to be safe to run the race, and the whole lot got abandoned. They had to re-qualify for this race. It wouldn't have been fair, particularly with different drivers and a completely different circuit. It wouldn't have been fair to have carried the grid over. But the car that starts on pole position, or started on pole position in this race, was on pole position in Spa as well. So that's kind of poetic justice, really. Antti Ramo will feel as though there's no justice at all. He did all that he could to get round to hit the pit window, and he missed. Now he's going to have to come in again. Well, he hasn't this time around. I think he gets one more opportunity to cross the start-finish line before they start throwing books at him in terms of penalties. Yeah, he'll probably need to think about that next time around for that stop and go. They don't like it if you try and drag it out for a few laps.
Do you know, I'm wondering, and we saw him definitely come in just a few seconds late. There's no way he was 16 seconds behind that pit window closing. It was 2 or 3. But I'm wondering if he slightly short ran his pit stop as well, because when he was on the track before his pit stop, he was only just ahead, as in only just about a lap in front of the number 2 car of Danny Sufi, and it's 1 minute and 22 seconds to get around. He had to stop for 1 minute and 35, so he should have come out in theory probably about 10 seconds or so behind him, and he came out just in front, didn't he?
Yeah.
So I think he might have short pitted as well as coming too late, hence the 16 seconds.
Right, well, this looks like Chiano Alazari coming in for what was his penalty as well, and out of the pit lane, so that's dropped him down through the pack and down into 5th place. You can see from the timing screen, just getting the better of Felipe Laza. No, it's not Felipe Laza, Maxim Dirks, isn't it? Your graphic has sent Klaus Ablin in 6th place. It is Felipe Laza, just to reassure you, in car 30. But yes, all the hard work that was done for the cars that were running that battle for 3rd place. The only one who seems to have come out of it unscathed is Julian Apostolos, who's in 4th place at the moment.
So these two have both had extra pit stops. They've both had their penalties, haven't they? And they have to come in and do stop-goes. So they come out now with just about the number 21 car ahead of number 18, Dirks, for 6th place. But Antti Ramo is going to have to come in soon, very soon, to make his stop-go penalty as well. So it should move, as you say, well, it will move Apostolos up into 3rd place. How far is Alcazari behind is going to be the next question. Alcazari is just coming into turn 11. Ramo has stayed out for another lap, look. So he turn 5. He's going to have to come in on this lap, I think, to serve his penalty. He's going to be in real trouble. So it's going to be tight, you know. He's going to come out not too far away from number 21, Al-Khazari, once he makes that stop-go penalty.
Well, that'll be entertaining. We'll resume that battle we had at the beginning of the race then, won't we? I wonder whether the MRS GT Racing team are appealing in some way. I'd say it's a statement of fact that he missed the pit window, so I don't really see how they can appeal that. Maybe, as you say, there was an additional penalty for the minimum pit stop time. Let's have a look again to see if he peels off this time.
Yeah.
Yes, he does. So there's a white line there. Maybe they count that as the pit entry, and maybe it was a stationary time. We don't have any details of what the penalty was for, but we do know the team manager has been requested to race control immediately after the race. So I think detention.
I say it's this line because that's why you have to slow down.
Yes, absolutely.
For the pit lane speed limit. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. So he certainly missed that, but may have been stationary for too short a time as well. Whatever it is, it's gonna sting, isn't it? So through the pits comes car 14, 16 seconds. That's gonna feel like a very, very long time, and it's such a shame. But I have to say, I'm very excited to see Antti Ramo in the other 2 races that we've got this weekend, because he has really impressed. And the bronze-rated driver, that means that he is semi-professional again around silver-rated drivers, and you spotted on the screen.
Al-Khazari's just about to go to turn 1. It's going to be tight, isn't it, for what's going to be 4th place now between them, and he's going to come out behind, just behind. In fact, just behind Dirks as well.
Yeah. He's going to struggle probably to get past Al-Khazari, I'd suggest, on the pace that we've seen. There's Felipe Laza in the 6th place.
So that puts Ramo down to behind Potolos, behind Al-Khazari and behind Dirks at the moment. So that puts him down 3 positions as a result of that, down to 6th position.
Yeah, so that's a lesson learned. I'll probably put that one down to experience and make sure they don't do it again tomorrow. Meanwhile, at the front, Valentina Catalano. No problems at all. 8.158 over Danny Soufi. Danny Soufi, who has been so impressive on his debut last year in Prototype Cup Germany, was very quick. He's from Austin in Texas, was the Prototype Winter Series champion, so that's how good he is. Was racing MX-5s only a couple of years ago, so there's a bit of a step up, isn't there? Driver who is very connected to Conrad Motorsport. Was doing DIY odd jobs around the factory for a number of months before jumping into the seat. Absolutely loves this series, and it's great to welcome him back here this year. Another one of the drivers that you would say is very much a championship contender.
So we've got just under 11 minutes on the clock. Number 70, Valentino Catalano, leads by 8.1 seconds from Danny Soufi. But Danny Soufi has been closing that gap pretty consistently. On the last lap, he was half a second quicker. But half a second over 10 laps, that only gets you 5 seconds back, and he's 8.1 behind. He could do it, but he's going to have to keep that sort of pace up. But he's definitely trying. Don't rule Danny Soufi out of keeping the pressure up and trying to get a win out of this very late on. But he'll have to take at least half a second a lap out of the leader, probably a bit more than that to have a chance. So number 2, Danny Soufi in 2nd place for Conrad. Number 8, Julian Potolos up to 3rd after that stop-go penalty. Well, for everybody else behind him, they've all been in and out of the pits twice, haven't they, at least? So Potolos is for Muka Motorsport in 3rd place, and he is nearly 17 seconds behind Danny Soufi, but he's well clear of the number 21 car of Keanu Al-Khazari, which is 4th. And then it'll be Antti Ramo, number 14, in 5th. He was just behind Dirks, but Dirks had the extra pit stop as well, so that's a lap between them. So 14, Ramo 5th rather than 6th. 6th is Laza in the 30 car, and 7th, and 2 laps down now, is number 8, Dirks. And we've lost the number 47 car halfway through the race into retirement of AF2 Motorsport, Robert Doyle and Jaime Guzman, who never really got a chance to drive the car.
This is proper endurance racing, isn't it, with the number of pit stops we're having. You can see that Danny Soufi is pushing hard. We saw him as he went into turn 1 at the beginning of this lap. You saw the puff of blue smoke as he locked up. So he's not settled for second place, 7.936. So the gap just coming down, but as already mentioned, probably not enough. He would love for Catalano to see him in his mirrors and be spooked a little, but I've got news for you, Danny. Valentino Catalano takes a little bit of spooking. He's looking very solid out there and is going to take a bit of stopping, and in fact he's responded, opened the gap up a little, 8.051, maybe helped by that lockup that Soufi had. Potelos in a solid third place, but look at this, Anti-Ramo in fifth place. Never say die, Felipe Laza all over him like the proverbial. In the background, Maxim Dirix, he's a lap further back from them, but keeping an eye on what is occurring. You can always get a lap back if these two get together, but this is going to be very entertaining because Felipe Laza, as I mentioned before, the only gold-rated driver in this race, has won the Nürburgring 24-hour race just a couple of years ago. So he is a pretty useful driver. Up against the bronze driver in front of him, he must fancy his chances of a fifth place.
Chiano Alazari has just set the best lap of the race in fourth place, 1 minute 20.9.
Fantastic.
That's not bad going. I know the car's lighter because it's got less fuel on board, but those tyres have done a fair bit of work now. So is the driver, and you know, it's 22 degrees out of the cars, but inside the cars it's at about 30. It's about 55 degrees. So, and he's driven that race solo. So terrific effort to get the fastest lap of the race for Al-Khazari. Remember, this morning got pole position for the third race of the weekend. So fancy his chances of that third and final race right at the end of the afternoon tomorrow. But for now, this is the battle for fifth place between number 14 Ramo and number 30 Felipe Laza, who's a bit quicker than him on the previous lap, but on that one, or on this one rather, the gap stayed at about the same level, and he's hunting him down, shadowing him, trying to find a way through. They're just about to go into turn 8, this left-hander, into the final sector. Meanwhile, Catalano, 7 minutes and 20 seconds left on the clock. His gap is less than 8 seconds now. Just did a 1:21.7, but only 2/10 quicker was Danny Soufi, and 2/10 of a second per lap's not going to be enough to close the gap before now and the checkered flag.
And at turn 12, Felipe Laza lining up Anti-Ramo up ahead of him now. Is this going to be his opportunity with those 7 minutes plus 1 lap remaining? Out along the pit straight, perhaps just a little bit too far back this time around. Shows himself to the inside, but way too far back to make a move into turn 1. But a lockup, was that a lockup from Anti-Ramo? You saw the puff of blue smoke even. So the fight for fifth place still raging on. Anti-Ramo, what an impressive driver he has been in this, the first race of the season, a 12-race season for the Prototype Cup Germany, and we're here at the Lausitzring being thoroughly entertained by these monsters. This race, of course, replacing one of the races that we lost at Spa-Francorchamps back in April due to snow. And I would just say, Chiano Alazari at Spa-Francorchamps, he was actually the fastest as Anti-Ramo. Goes even wider. Alazari was the fastest at Spa, but he lost 2 laps for track limits. Well, there's ifs, buts and maybes, but he showed a bit of his pace. And Marcus Pommer was looking over his shoulder before he'd even turned up at Lausitzring. Let's have another look at that wild ride out of the corner onto the runoff area and slightly into the kitty litter. Just chucks a little bit up. Nothing too dramatic, but Felipe Laza will know that the pressure is getting to him a little. Out of turn 12, again, Felipe Laza looking a little bit too far back to do anything about it. Of course, all these cars with identical engines, and those two are identical chassis as well, but it doesn't look like Laza has the legs on him down the straight.
He's a 1/10.5 quicker through that last sector, Ramo, so that's where he's making the ground up. It comes down in the first half of the lap, but it's critically at the end of the lap, and then giving himself a nice big comfortable margin into turn 1 that Anti-Ramo has the advantage. Yeah, just that replay we got of him running into the litter a little bit with his left rear tyre. He just turned in a little bit too late, but after that he's been fine, so you've got to worry about punctures if you keep doing that. So here's Danny Soufi for the ultra-experienced Austrian team Conrad Motorsport, who've won championships in just about everything that they've done. Porsche racing is where they've had a huge success. Porsche Super Cup champions, Porsche Carrera Cup Germany teams and drivers champions. They've raced in the FIA GT Championship and won the IMSA Sports Car Championship, you name it. Franz Conrad, the legendary team founder and a very successful driver himself, who was a Nürburgring 24-hour winner, amongst other things. He's been here this weekend overseeing the team, and cheering their driver on, Danny Suford. He is closing the gap, but he's not closing the gap quickly enough. He's got it down to 6.9 seconds. I think it was 11 seconds at one point, but there's only 4 minutes, 20 seconds plus 1 lap left on the clock.
He can see his target up ahead of him, can't he? He couldn't earlier, so he can see Valentino Catalana, the distinctive red and black car up ahead. So he's got something to aim for. But Catalano now into turns 10 and 11. So a little way ahead. You saw a puff of blue smoke. Was that Catalana who'd locked up, maybe? So you get the feeling that Catalano is pushing hard, needs to keep it out of the wall. I have to tell you that those walls don't move. So if you rub up against them, you are going to come off the worst. So across the line, he is taking the time out of it. But with 3 3/4 minutes plus 1 lap remaining of this race, time is running out. Maybe he can see that lockup ahead of him, and there was that lockup. The smoke was still in the air when Sufi arrived on the scene. So clearly Catalano trying very hard, and Sufi will be thinking, well, maybe I can pressure him into a mistake with less than 3.5 minutes of this race remaining.
Yeah, got 0.7 of a second on him on that lap, helped out by that slightly ragged moment from the race leader, but he's still got more than enough in hand here. He hasn't got to drive at 100%. He can afford to let the number 2 Conrad car close on him a little bit. Catalano in a good spot here at the moment, but definitely no respite for Antti Ramo, the Estonian, in the number 14 car there, because he's got Felipe Laza still breathing down his neck in this battle for 5th place. There was 0.8 of a second between them at the end of the previous lap. That gap has come back down to just half a second now. There's a lock-up into turn 1, the biggest braking zone for Antti Ramo, but actually getting it slightly wrong. No lock-up, but he went a bit too deep into the corner as well, was Felipe Laza, so he had to really stand on the brakes and give a big yank at the steering wheel to avoid going wide. It's because he showed his nose, look, so he's tight in, and then he just loses it, a bit unstable under braking. He has to really turn away then to avoid running off the road through the next corner. So they both made a bit of an error there, but actually it was more costly for Felipe Laza, and Ramo's got a bit more breathing space than he had 10 seconds ago now.
I think Antti Ramo will be thinking about what might have been had it not been for the stop-and-go penalty. He has been one, well, I was going to say driver of the race, but there have been several drivers who have impressed so much in this race. But Antti Ramo, remind you, he is a bronze-rated driver, 41 years old, a late starter in motor racing. He started karting at age 23. He's a developer in educational software for schools and an amateur triathlete. So this is just one of the many strings to his bow.
Just showing off now, isn't he?
He is absolutely showing off. I'll do his one-handed. And he's holding off Felipe Laza, no less, the Nürburgring 24-hour race winner from a couple of years ago. That is quite an impressive thing to be doing here, particularly at a tricky, bumpy circuit like the Lausitzring.
Shout out for our driver in 4th place as well. He's been brilliant on his debut. Chiano Alazzari has just beaten his own best lap of the race. So another fastest lap of the race for Alazzari, 1 minute 20.6. That was 1.2 seconds quicker than the race leader. Pretty impressive stuff. So he's really pushing on. I mean, he can't catch Apostolos for 3rd place. He's 20.7 seconds behind him, but he's showing what sort of pace he's got and how difficult he's going to be dislodged from pole position in the final race of the weekend. But we're into the final minute now, so the clock will run out on this lap, and then it'll be one more at the end of it. Still pushing on, as you can tell from the body language of the car, is Danny Sufi, who was right on the very limits of adhesion going into turn 1, wasn't he? And he's got the gap down to under 5 seconds now.
He was monstering it. There's a little downhill section as they turn into a turn 1, and the back end of the car just sliding slightly. You can see he is pushing still. These drivers not giving up. Look at that gap though, 5.486 between 1st and 2nd. I think Catalano will be very happy that this race isn't 5 or 10 minutes longer. There is 1st place. We're going to wait. There is 2nd place, giving it the large around the corner, but Catalana well clear as they head in towards turn 8, and looking pretty solid. The clock is going to strike 0, so this will be the penultimate lap. Next time around will be the final lap of the race.
Yeah, 10 out of 10 for trying for Danny Sufi. He's giving it everything. Tell you what, if this race was another 5 minutes longer, it would be a bit stressful for Valentino Catalano, but he should have enough in hand here. He's going to be going on to the final lap of the race now. There is the last lap board being shown to the race leading number 70 car for Gebhardt Motorsport. This team run by the two Gebhardt brothers. Actually ran Walter Lechner, the legendary Walter Lechner, for a time when he was running in the World Sports Car Championship back in the day. So they're a very experienced team as well, and they've got a great driver lineup, as we've already said, with 5 wins between them last season. Catalano was fourth in the championship with Robin Rogalski, and Marcus Pommer, who started the race, was the champion of 2023. So 5.676 seconds. Catalano, for once, extends his advantage. He's on the last lap of the race, and it's looking like he's going to get the first win of the season with Marcus Pommer.
Just got to bring it home. The last few corners. Our race leader into turn 7 at the moment, and now flat out towards turn 8. See the cars over the bumps. Still could be caught out here. Needs to keep the focus. Don't start celebrating too early. Danny Soufi's got that in mind as well. He's got that 5.4 second gap as he heads into turn 10 for the last time today. Remember, there are 2 more races tomorrow, but the opening race of the season, cancelled, rescheduled from Spa-Francorchamps, finally has been run at a turn 12. It's going to be a win for Valentina Catalana and Marcus Pommer, the defending champion in the Prototype Cup Germany, taking the first win of the season. A solid drive to second place for Danny Soufi and Torsten Kratz, and a good solid points haul for Julian Apostolos and the very impressive Riccardo Cirelli as well. What a potent combination those 2 drivers are. There are your podium finishes in the first race of the season from Prototype Cup Germany. We're still waiting for the 4th place to cross the line, and that will be Keanu Al-Hazari, who has been so impressive. The young 16-year-old driver on his debut did the full stint himself. He crosses the line. A good, solid points haul in 4th place. And then we wait for another I mean, it is... one of my colleagues said to me only yesterday, there is so much quality in this field. And it is absolutely true, isn't it? It's quality all the way through. Another star drive, anti-Ramo, despite the penalties that were thrown at him, bringing it home in 5th place with Felipe Laza, holding off Felipe Laza, and it will be Maxim Dirks who is the last of the runners.
Yeah, good race that. Really enjoyed the battle in the first half of the race that we had between Antti Ramo and Riccardo Cirelli, and also star turn from Keanu Al-Hazari. But it's Marcus Pommer and Valentino Catalana that win in the end after 40 laps of racing by 5.2 seconds. Second place goes to Torsten Kratz, and Danny Soufi was charging at the end. And then Cirelli and Apostolos round out the top 3. Then everybody else had either penalties for pit stops or for being out of position at the start, or both. Keanu Al-Hazari 4th place though, and the fastest lap of the race. Impressive stuff from him, and Antti Ramo had all the action all the way to the end of the race there with his battle late on with Felipe Laza. 5th place for him. Abelin and Laza rounding out the top 6, and the other finisher, as Brian said, the 2nd Gebhardt car of Sven Bart and Maxim Dirks, which had the spear in the moment through the gravel and a penalty in the pit stop for coming in too early as well.
Well, this bodes well for the season, doesn't it? And so much talent, so many drivers that are very close to each other in terms of talent. This series, which is organised by the ADAC and Creventic, encouraging the talent like Torsten Kratz and Danny Soufi in that 2nd place for Conrad Motorsport in the Ligier JSP 320. We've already seen Julian Apostolos and Riccardo Cirelli in the BWT Mucca Motorsport Duqueine D08. But no doubt about the winner, and anybody who thinks they're going to run away with it this weekend, think again. Gebhardt Motorsport preparing the car, the Duqueine D08 for Valentina Catalana and Marcus Pommer, the German duo. A great and solid start, a maximum points haul from this, the first race of the season. And all that work on the sim for Valentina Catalana has paid off. Don't fall off the car, chap. There we go. Celebrations for our race winner, Marcus Pommer, the defending champion. Of course, the other of the champions, Gary Hauser, not defending this year. But Marcus Pommer, great to have him back again. He's going to be a tough man to beat, as indeed is that man there, Julian Apostolos. It's quite hard work getting out of the seat of one of these cars, you know. So Julian Apostolos wondered how Riccardo Cirelli would cope with the magnitude of the moment and stepping up to this? Well, the answer to that question is very well indeed. And Julian Potilos will be truly heartened by the fact he has a really rapid co-driver in that number 8 car. So into the Parc Fermé conditions for these cars. There is Valentina Catalano, there is Danny Soufi. Great to have the very likeable American driver back on the grid this year. A real great addition to this series. There is Valentina Catalano. Well, he's been dreaming about this since the season ended 224 days ago at the Nürburgring. It was a false start. We all rocked up at Spa-Francorchamps expecting a couple of races there. And of course, the snow came and the rain came, even though it was mid to late April. Well, if you will schedule races at Spa, what do you expect? But it wasn't safe to run races 1 and 2 of the season. So this is the first one that has been rescheduled. The second one, there is Franz Conrad congratulating Valentina Catalano. That's the gentleman with the lighter coloured hair. And yeah, the other of the races from Spa will be scheduled at some point this season. Just listening in. Always good to eavesdrop. Never know what you're going to find out. A white knuckle ride for our crew with the bleep machine. Right, there we go, celebrating in front of the cameras. And the dulcet tones of our podium presenter, Toby Shimon, now getting ready to welcome the 6 drivers who are going to finish on the podium. Riccardo Cirelli from Italy, Julian Apostolos from Switzerland. What an impressive duo for an impressive team, BWT Muka Motorsport. Danny Soufi and Torsten Kratz, Germany and the USA in terms of drivers, onto the second place. But the winner, fair to say, probably the favourites coming into this season, Marcus Palmer and Valentina Catalano. But we have proven today they are not just going to walk away with this. They have some very rapid drivers who are chasing them all the way. Valentina Catalano, also the highest finishing driver in the junior category. And Torsten Kratz, the highest finishing driver in the trophy category. And so we're doing all the podiums together. And the team winner, of course, is Gebhardt Motorsport. So they will get a trophy to add to their very sizable cabinet already. First, we need, I think, some national anthems. Oh, here comes the representative from Gebhardt first. And 7 people on the podium. Pick up the trophy. Oh, pick up the champagne. There's not much left in there, mate. National anthems. Get the feeling it's not the last time we will see any of these 6 drivers on the podium this season. Very strong indeed. Bert Berwick from Berlin-Brandenburg, the sports director, presenting trophies to our 3rd place drivers. BWT, best water technology, such a big presence in the paddock for ADAC, DTM events, doing a great job. Is Ori Lichtenberg, the coordinator of Prototype Cup Germany from Creventic, presenting the trophies to Torsten Kratz and Danny Soufi. And our race winners receiving their trophies as well, holding them high. It was a race that had a bit of everything as we wait for the team championship trophy to be presented. It was a race that had everything. It had controversy, it had wheel-to-wheel battles, It had excitement from beginning to end. Very, very enjoyable. The great news is we get to do it twice more. We've got 2 races tomorrow. The first is at 11 o'clock local time. We'll be on air about 5 minutes before that. And the second race tomorrow at 20 to 5 local time will be on about 16:35. Finally, the Prototype Cup Germany season 2024 is up and running. We'll see you tomorrow for races 2 and 3.